Let's switch gears and jump forward to your time at ClickUp, where you joined as the chief creative officer, I think in 2020.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, why did ClickUp need a CCO?
Um, so ClickUp, there's a lot of reasons why I sort of joined a CCO. One was, I, I was at first interviewing for CMO, and I didn't really want to be a CMO. I saw like CMO tenures are just like very, very short. The pressure is enormous. They're tasked with things that I don't actually believe like a CMO should fully be in charge of. I think there's definitely like a healthy separation, or not healthy separation, but healthy balance between like performance and brand, and those things can be married and have overlap in a great relationship, but they can't be tied to one person. One brain, I just don't believe is like capable of being the creative person if you really want to grow brand and also just heavily performance focused. So that's sort of the lens that we took, and it worked very well actually. But it was more the company like believed in becoming a legacy company. They're like, hey, we're in the most crowded space next to CRM. We're going up against $50 billion, $20 billion market cap companies, and we realize that it's hard to compete on product alone, and that building a very unique, bold, standout brand is going to be important for us. And they liked my BuzzFeed background, which also attracted me to them, because when they reached out and I was like, why are you reaching out to me for this role? And they, they're like, the BuzzFeed experience is actually very interesting for us because we want to build a brand that's really great and stand out. And, Zeb is his own brand, and, he's also very bold and bright. And the connection was just very perfect. I was like, I think that this company will let me apply my learnings and my skill sets in a really unique way. And they did.
And I think, and one of the main ways that I remember you doing that was like your billboards. I saw them all around the Bay Area. I was putting up billboards too,
Yeah.
generally at the same time. And I think it was like one app to rule them all, like the Lord of the Rings play, save a day every week, something like that. And I remember looking at them and being like, okay, these are very high level, kind of over promising, but like I remembered all of them, and that makes it successful. And so like, why did you take that approach? Because looking at the billboard, I wouldn't actually know what ClickUp was necessarily. Like, what was the thinking behind that campaign?
Yeah, I mean, both of the billboard is just, it's the greatest way that you can place yourself directly next to your competitors, on the highway, at the airport, like physically, like to put yourself next to a $50 billion market cap company when you are nowhere near that is beyond the best medium. Like I can't, there's no other place that you can really do that. So that was like the thought process there. And we started slow. We started in a couple of markets and then we expanded. And then the campaign itself, like the goal is not to have people know exactly what you do. It's to capture their attention enough where they go to your site and look you up. And we put ourselves in the right markets where we knew that if we could convert a fraction of them or a percentage of them based on that second step, which is, hey, this captured my attention enough to go Google it or go to the site. And then, oh, this is actually interesting. I'm at this type of a company because we targeted those areas, and this is a useful product for my team. Great. And yeah, I mean, I think you have to like, that's the entire goal of a campaign on a billboard campaign. If you're not capturing their attention or creating a curiosity gap, which is also like a big part of it, or creating some sort of like very grand promise, then you're not making an impact. And some people hated them, and we got like so much slack on Twitter. And this one guy just really hated them, and he would just talk about them all the time, and it was great because he had like a 100,000 person following, and every time he would tweet how much he hated these billboards, we would get a ton of people coming from his tweets to our site. And the goal is to create conversation, and that's really what the ROI should be. If you're creating conversation and people are talking about your billboards, you've won. Someone the other day on LinkedIn had a post go viral. He hated, it was like Tesco's billboard campaign, and he wrote this whole post and he posted all these photos, and I was like, they've won. And because you have written this post, it means they've won. I don't care if you like it or you hate it, but like this is the action that should be taken by creating that campaign.
And I totally agree with you too. Like, I think billboards are so underrated for up and coming B2B companies because B2B, it's all about building trust. You know, it's like
Yeah.
nobody gets fired for buying IBM or whatever that old saying is. It's like if the CFO or whoever sees the billboard on the highway, they're like, oh, okay, this company's legit enough. They're big enough. I'll buy it from that startup. And like, you know, I put up billboards when we were like a million ARR company.
Yeah.
Like we were not, you know, and it's cheaper than people think too. You don't have to do the $1 million buy,
Yeah.
you know, like something like that. It is very underrated. I'm excited
Yeah,
to
we
put up some
bought
for
them.
Doc.
We also like we strategically bought them during COVID, so we got locked in. And I was like, okay, people are going to come out of hiding. It's going to be great. So we bought them, and then we locked ourselves into really really great contracts where we got a ton of free inventory. The rates were like 2020 rates for 4 years. So it was
That's awesome.
just like right place, right time too.
And like what markets did you put them in? Like how did you think about that? Was it just like the big cities, tech cities? Was it kind of
Yeah.
that simple
Yeah,
or
we
yeah?
tried 4 cities to start, and then we did it was kind of great because the company had not really been doing performance marketing at all or any sort of like marketing. They were just testing the waters, but they didn't have any good ads. So I was like, okay, awesome. We're going to do baseline aided unaided studies, and we're going to start, and it's like kind of a clean palette because you really don't have anything that's like going to gray that. Um and we were able to see like, hey, we went from, over the course of 2 years, like from less than 1% awareness to like 7 or 8, in all of these markets, pretty quickly. So we, doubled down. It was working.
I'm curious what your creative process was like for setting up these billboards at ClickUp. I remember at Lattice, when I did the billboards, like too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone wanted to have an opinion about what it was. I was coming up with the creative myself. I would literally like go by people's desk and be like, "What do you think about this?" Like, yeah, how did you get buy-in? And it was a small team, big team. What was the
I
process
mean,
like?
we kind of, yeah, it was a small team at that point, so it was very easy. As we got like at later stage, it got much more complicated because we wanted to change it, and the refresh it was hard. But yeah, I mean, it was based on like conversion metrics on our site too. Like we had those headlines as tests on our homepage, and they were converting very high, and we liked them as campaigns. And we thought, hey, you know what? If they're converting very high, we've tested them against 50 other headlines, and these are the ones that continue to win. Let's try it, and it worked.